Hello everyone, and today we are going to find out what would have happened if the cop car Lee was in never crashed. Quick disclaimer. This video is not an accurate and canon analysis. This video is strictly for entertainment purposes. Enjoy the video. First off, let's address that there will be spoilers to the game. Make sure to play the first season before watching this video. Now that is out of the way, let's get to it. So, as we already know in the game, the car crashes. But for this video, say the walker was not in the road and Lee made it to the prison. A lot of things would have been changed without Lee in the story. Let's go over them. First off, if Lee never got into a crash, he would have never found Clementine. If he had never found Clementine, Clem would have probably missed the chance of meeting Sean, which also means Clem would have never made it to Herschel's farm. So after a while, Clem would eventually leave her tree house, and with nobody there, it would be most likely Clem would have been greeted by a walker, so unfortunately, there will be no Lee or Clementine in this video. So as canon, Kenny, Katya, and Duck are at Herschel's farm. But Kenny would save Duck and leave Sean to die. As he does is canon. Then Herschel kicks the family out and then they're on the road. As it goes in canon, Kenny's truck breaks down at the drugstore. And then they call for help. The walkers attack and Carly saves Duck just like in canon. Once Kenny and his family get in, Larry immediately accuses Duck of being bitten. Kenny of course denies it and becomes hostile towards Larry and vice versa. Here can be interesting as you can control Kenny and have a choice of pleading with Larry or pooching him. If you decide to plead with Larry, he will be persistent on throwing Duck out. After some dialogue, Katya reveals the Duck was never bitten and Larry apologizes. But if you hit Larry, Larry hits you back and knocks you down. Then you can decide to get up or stay down. If you stay down, Katya will reveal Duck was not bitten. But if you get back up, you will have a QTE, and if you're fast enough, you dodge Larry's punch and you counter-punch him. But if you aren't fast enough, Larry knocks you down again. And then Katya tells everyone Duck's not bitten. But if you stood back up and got the QTE done in time, you get a chance to punch Larry again. But if you don't, Larry grabs you and punches you. No matter what happens then, Katya says Duck's not bitten, and the altercation stops. Larry then goes on his canon rant. He has his little heart attack episode. After the last events, Glenn heads out to the motor inn like canon, and after a while, nobody else knows their way around, so Glenn is left at the motor inn for now. After a while, Larry succumbs to his heart attack and dies, since nobody else knows that no matter how you die, you come back. Lily is soon bitten. After Larry turns, Carly is the one who has to put the both of them down. The sound attracts the walkers, and then they start attacking the drugstore, so the smaller group of Carly, Kenny, Katya, Duck, and Doug flee and eventually find the motor inn where Glenn is, and they clear out the walkers and claim it for themselves. After the walkers are cleared, Glenn decides to leave, as he did in canon. It is now 3 months later, and the newest member of the group, Mark, goes out for hunting with Kenny and Doug. Mark and Doug spot a bird and Mark takes the shot. After Mark misses, they hear a scream and think it's Kenny. As Kenny, you make your way to the sound and see Mark and Doug. Also 3 people with one in a bear trap. Then you start to hear walkers coming, and you have to leave the choice up to Mark and Doug while you shoot the walkers. After you get enough walkers killed, Mark and Doug do not know what to do, so then you make the choice of cutting the teacher's leg off or not. So no matter what you do, one of them are coming with you. And Ben comes no matter what too? So, since there are not as many people, Mark's food does not go out as fast, so there will be no choose who you give food to while you're playing as Kenny, since you're not so on edge. After arguing with Lily, you and Katya have a conversation and without even realizing it, the person you brought back with you starts to turn. You go to talk to everyone else, but then you hear a yell and the new walker is attacking Katya. But then, new choice is to be made. You either play as Carly and shoot the walker, or you play as Kenny and kill the walker. But unfortunately, no matter what, Katya gets bitten. Then you have to put her down. Then a new choice appears. Play as Carly to put Katya down, or play as Kenny to put Katya down. After Katya is dealt with, everyone stares at Ben, and then look away. If Carly put Katya down, Kenny stares angrily at Ben. But if Kenny did it, he breaks down right after doing so. After a while, you spot the St. John brothers, and you aim your gun at them. They assure you they are not looking for trouble and only want some gas. Then you will have the choice of giving them some gas, or lying to them and telling them you have no gas. But either way, they both go on. It is now 1 week later. Mark and Doug are back on runs now that the food is getting low. The absolute same thing as in canon transpires, and then Mark decides to leave her. But Doug doesn't want to say, since Mark is the one with the gun. At the end of the day, Mark leaves her to die. When they get back, everyone is able to chill until Carly calls Mark and Doug to speak with them. Carly reveals that someone is stealing supplies, and Carly thinks it's Ben, since the fact that Mark and Doug are helping to get them. And Kenny is in no shape to even think about stealing, and Doug is a kid, so of course Carly's first guess is Ben. So then after you send Doug and Mark to investigate, they come back with a paper bag full of supplies, but then the next thing you hear is yelling. Then you look outside to see Kenny, Doug, and Ben held hostage. Mark and Doug start trying to negotiate with the bandits. But then you play as Carly with a rifle and shoot one of the bandits. Then you can play as Kenny and punch one of them and take their gun. Then as Carly, you have to cover all of your group, while Kenny is getting the RV ready. After killing the bandits, all the walkers drawn to the noise are in the motor inn, and the only person that isn't in the RV besides Carly is Duck. You spot Duck and shoot the walker off him. And then Kenny grabs Duck and carries him to the RV. Then Carly runs to RV before Kenny speeds off to the road. After Carly starts going off on what just happened, Kenny interrupts her saying Duck is bitten. Kenny stops the RV and everyone gets out to discuss what to do. Kenny takes Duck out of the RV and sits him up against a rock. As Kenny turns around, he starts crying at the thought of losing Duck right after he lost Katya. If you had Kenny put Katya down in the second episode, Kenny will ref you to do it, saying I'm not doing this shit again. But if Carly did it, Kenny will say I can do this. But no matter what you do, Duck will be put down. Kenny then starts to bellow that Ben was the one who traded with the bandits, so Kenny makes a vote to leave Ben and Mark agrees. But Doug says that Ben's just a kid and was probably trying to help. If actually did it, then everyone depends on you as Carly to make the final vote. If you decide to leave Ben, you leave him. But if you vote to keep Ben with you, then he stays. Either with or without Ben, you get stopped by the train, and you have to find a way how to get it running. As Kenny, you and Doug go to figure out how to start the train. After a while you figure it out and go to get it going. Then you find out it's hooked to another cart. You then meet Chuck and start talking to him. After you get the train unhooked. After that you leave, and after you check on everyone. If you have Ben, he admits to you that he was the one giving supplies to the bandits. You can choose to be hostile or calm with him. But if you don't have Ben with you, this doesn't happen. After that you have to stop the train, because there is an oil tanker in the middle of the tracks. After discussing what to do, the group hears voices, and it turns out to be Omid and Krista. Carly and Doug go to talk to the couple and they agree to help if they can come along. You send Mark and Doug, Ben too if you have him, to search in the shack a little ways up the track. They pick the lock and deal with the walkers. Nothing they can't handle. If Ben is with you, Ben and Omid go to cut the tanker. But if you don't, then you take Kenny. If you have Ben, then Ben starts to cut, but if you don't, Kenny does. Then, after it's out of reach, either Ben or Kenny hold Omid over the edge to cut the tanker. Then the herd is spotted and everyone get in the train except of whoever is on the bridge. If you have Ben and Omid on the bridge, they both jump at the same time. Omid is fine, but Ben breaks his legs and is left behind. But if it's Kenny and Omid, you get a choice to push Omid or jump. Then regardless, you as Kenny has to help Omid or Krista to the train. Then once everyone is on, you make your way to Savannah. It's now 12 hours later and our group of Kenny, Carly, Doug, Mark, Chuck, Omid and Krista make their way through the streets in Savannah until the bell goes off and you have to make your way to safety. The walkers start piling in and you as Carly has to save Kenny. After you save Kenny, you notice Mark surrounded by walkers. You and Kenny have to shoot the walker, but you can get all of them and Mark is eaten by the walkers. And Chuck gets trapped as in cannon. The group of Carly, Kenny, Doug, Omid and Krista make their way to the house, and since they can't get through the door, Omid tells everyone about the automatic dog collar, and then Kenny digs it up and get the dog door unlocked. Nobody can unlock the actual door, so Krista get it unlocked because she has the longest arms. Everybody gets in the house and Omid sits down to rest his leg. But after a while, Doug tells you as Carly that there is something wrong with Kenny. You go to talk to Kenny, but then you see what's wrong with him. There is a kid walker having a resemblance to Duck. You put the boy down and Kenny goes to bury him. Later you and Kenny go out to find a boat. After walking for a bit, you start to hear bells ringing, and you and Kenny take cover. After the walkers clear out, you and Kenny find that there are no more boats. Kenny spots one he thinks he can save, and he tells you to look around on the telescope. After you find a quarter and look around, you see someone climbing down from a building, and you tell Kenny to get into cover. You and Kenny makes a game plan and Carly goes to cover Kenny, and you as Kenny goes to sneak up on the person. A QTE pops up after the person steals your weapon, and if you're fast enough you get the upper hand and you pull out your gun. Then you have the choice of kill or spare the person. If you spare the person, Carly shoots her, so no matter what the person dies. But if you're too slow in the QTE and the person gets the upper hand, Carly just shoots her. You and Carly make it back to the house quickly and discover that Omid is not going to make it since his infection is bad, and there is no medicine for him, so after a while you have to put him down. So then our group of Kenny, Carly, Doug, Mark and Krista tried to find safety elsewhere. Now this is where I'm going to end part 1. So, in the next part, we are going to see what will happen to our group in the next part. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This took a bit of time to make and I will come out with a part 2 eventually. Also make sure to watch my Lee Everett vs. Rick Grimes video and I hope you have a great day.